Commercial real estate in Chicago boomed in the late 1870s due to the recovery from the Great Chicago Fire in 1871. In 1880, William Hale purchased a small lot in the Loop community area containing the four-story First National Bank building, one of the few offices in downtown Chicago to partially survive the Great Fire. Hale was the founder of the Hale Elevator Company and early producer of hydraulic elevators necessary in skyscraper design. Hale envisioned a new tower on the site, but first needed to raise the existing structure. However, its tenants did not want to terminate their leases. Instead, Hale lifted the second, third, and fourth floors on jack screws and demolished the first. A new basement and ground floor, designed by John Wellborn Root of Burnham and Root firm, were constructed in 1880. Root developed the floating raft system, which enabled designers to build large steel frame buildings on a reinforced concrete foundation, a necessity in Chicago's moist soil. Root and Hale agreed that the new building needed to have large glass windows on the first floor with large open spaces. On the upper floors, Hale intended to have several stories dedicated to smaller tenants, with offices for doctors and other professionals on the top floors. He also specifically emphasized the need for natural lighting on all floors. The plan for the Reliance Building was consistent with the growing concept of the Chicago School of Architecture, which emphasized the importance of form following function. Root died of pneumonia on January 15, 1891, before the completion of his portion of the Reliance Building. His intended design for the rest of the building has never been found. Carson Peary and Scott Co. was the first tenant of the Reliance Building, opening a dry goods store on the first floor once it was completed. Daniel Burnham recruited Boston architect Charles B. Atwood to complete the building with E.C. Shanklin as lead engineer. After raising the original building's remaining 3 floors, Atwood used white-glazed architectural terracotta cladding, a feature that would later become strongly associated with him following his works for the World's Columbian Exposition in 1893. At the time, it was believed that the recently developed enamel terracotta would never need to be cleaned because of its smooth surface would allow any dirt to wash away in the rain. The steel framing on the top 10 floors was complete over 15 days from July 16th to August 1st, 1895. The Reliance Building, so named for its functionality, opened in March 1895. It was one of the first skyscrapers to offer electricity and phone service in all of its offices. In the first few decades, it provided office space for merchants and health professionals, including Al Capone's dentist. The building struggled during the Great Depression and slowly declined. In October 1948, Carroll's Men's Shop opened a store on the lower 2 floors, with a modern facade that obliterated the original storefront. However, the upper floors remained hard to fill. On October 15, 1970, the Reliance Building was listed on the National Register of Historic Places by the National Park Service. On January 7, 1976, it was recognized as a National Historic Landmark. The building continued to fall into despair as the small size of its rental spaces were not appealing to business interests in the late 20th century. The city of Chicago made a commitment to revitalize the structure, but City Hall could not agree on the plan. The debate became particularly polarized after the 1989 demolition of the nearby McCarthy Building, which angered preservationists but satisfied business interests by providing space for a modern office building. Finally, in 1994, the McClear Corporation collaborated with the Baldwin Development Company to restore the Reliance Building. These 2 groups had recently worked together to rehabilitate the Rookery Building. The city of Chicago purchased the property at this time for $1.3 million. The Reliance Building's rehabilitation was completed in 1999 at a cost of $27.5 million, as the former rental space was converted into a luxury hotel. Canal Street Partners, LLC, brought the revitalized space and created the Hotel Burnham. The preservation of this building was championed by the Landmarks Preservation Council of Illinois. Chicago Mayor Richard M. Daley was presented with a National Trust for Historic Preservation Honor Award in 2001 for the role of the city and preserving the structure. Okay, so first we'd like to introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Randy Sandlin. I'm a 20-year veteran of design. I've spent the last 20 years of my career working in consumer products. So working on small appliances, refrigerators, vacuum cleaners, most recently children's toys, and now I'm a design consultant. I do consulting work for a company in China right now on floor care products and other things coming to the U.S. So.
Okay, so just have a few questions for
Okay.
you about the Reliance building,
Okay.
also currently known as the Hotel Room. Would you consider the style of this building outdated? Does it appear to be out of place next to so many new skyscrapers, or is its revolutionary design still applicable in these times?
I definitely think it's applicable today. I think I'm a big fan of like the older designs kind of influencing today's designs. So getting rid of all the old and just having new to me would be boring. I think you need some of that. You need that mix of old architecture and new architecture and that influence. Being one of the first skyscraper in Chicago with these like very modern or pro-modern styles with the glass and stuff, and that's what you see a lot of in today's architecture. So,
Do you think that you could possibly still see like a step up from like if you look at the Trump Tower, for example? Do you think you could trace its heritage back to the Reliance building? You could see those.
I do, yeah, absolutely. I mean, from what I understand of the Reliance building is like a lot of the steel structure is internal. So at that point, when they made it more open, like airy, lightweight, and it's designed by doing that, getting rid of a lot of the brick structure on the outside and having all the structure pieces. I mean, the building's supported by the steel, and then by doing that, allow a lot of panels of glass. So the majority of the exterior of the building is glass. And now you look at Trump Tower and other skyscrapers in Chicago or throughout the world, it's almost all glass. It's visible on the outside of the building. So it's definitely traced back to that.
One of the things that was very interesting when the Reliance building first came out was the amount of like terracotta they used and how that was kind of like a big deal for them. It wasn't as much of how much glass there was, but how much terracotta. And I mean, today, do you think it's just kind of like the new thing is it's all about the glass, and back then they kind of really didn't pay too much mind to the small material details.
Yeah, I mean the terracotta is really nice, and the kind of the Gothic style that they had within the terracotta was a really nice addition to that building.
Okay, and then so also when this was built, it was built during that huge rush after the Chicago fire, where everyone was just building. There was so much space, and this being as big of a city as it was when the fire happened, that there was just so much that everyone could do. And do you think that the fire itself, I mean, even though it's such like a horrendous thing, do you think it was sort of like a blessing in disguise, allowing for all this like brilliant new types of designs to grow and flourish?
It's always hard to say it's a blessing in disguise with something so dramatic, but I think yes. Let me answer your question because if you look at the amount of architecture in Chicago, and it's one of the things we're known for in this city is the amount of architecture that's spawned from the fire. So yeah, and in a roundabout sort of way, it is a blessing in disguise.
It's kind of like the silver lining.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
There's amazing buildings because of that.
All right. Well, thank you. That's all.
That's it.
All we have. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.